We're living in the golden age of Warhammer 40k video games. The releases of Mechanicus 2, Bolt Gun 2, and Dark Heresy are approaching faster than you'd think, and even Dawn of War is being remastered soon. Also, all this is happening while 3 of 40k's largest games are getting some of the best updates they've ever received. The Arbites is now playable in Darktide as the Arbitrator class, adding some much needed variety to the game's combat, and they're also now playable in Rogue Trader in the form of a new Origin and Archetype. And Space Marine 2 has finally released its highly anticipated Horde mode in the form of Siege mode, which adds some much needed variety and challenge to the game. But that's just the tip of the iceberg for Darktide, Rogue Trader, and Space Marine 2, because we now have official confirmation from the developers of each of these games about what kind of content is in the works for them. Starting with Darktide, the developers have confirmed that the Arbites is the first class to release for the game, meaning that we can expect more classes to release in the future. And hey, this makes sense because the Arbites breathe a lot of fresh life into the game, and I would imagine that it was a huge financial success for Fat Shark. For me, this is exciting because the Arbitrator isn't a reject like the other classes in Darktide, which means that anything that's on the same power level as something like an Ogren, Psyker, or Arbitrator is on the table and could be added to the game. This opens up speculation to characters from all around the Imperium to include a Sister of Battle from the Adeptus Sororitas, Skitarii from the Mechanicus, or any number of other Imperial agents. Honestly, the idea of playing a Tech Adept or Skitarii in a game like Darktide literally has me salivating just thinking about it. Moving on to Rogue Trader, we actually have quite a bit of information regarding what kind of content is going to be added to the game in the future. If you don't already know, a second seasonal pass is available for Rogue Trader that includes an appearance pack and 2 major DLCs that are apparently going to be released next year. The appearance pack is available for use right now, but what amazes me about this news is that Rogue Trader is going to continue to seemingly receive support at least until Dark Heresy is released, which is phenomenal because I really love this game. Each of the DLCs is going to feature additions to include things such as a new companion and an estimated 15 hours of gameplay and story content. The first DLC, or DLC 3, is called the Infinite Museum Mission, and will feature one of the vaults curated by the infamous Trazyn the Infinite, an extremely old and powerful Necron who has a strange fascination with collecting anything and everything. What's exciting about this DLC is that Trazyn the Infinite is known for collecting all sorts of different living creatures, to include sentient races. The enemy variety in this DLC should extend beyond just fighting Necrons. I wouldn't be surprised if we see or perhaps even team up with various Tau-aligned races, for example. In fact, Owlcat can get really creative with which characters they add to this DLC because Trazyn has been doing his thing for a very long time, so they could even add characters from the Horus Heresy into the DLC if they really wanted to. DLC 4 is called Processional of the Damned, and in this DLC we'll be venturing into the Processional, which is a massive otherworldly graveyard of ships. I don't really know what to expect for a place that is effectively a dumping ground of old ships, but one faction that isn't featured in Rogue Trader yet is the Votann, or Space Dwarves. There's something about scavenging through ancient wreckage for important resources that screams Votann to me, but I could be completely wrong and simply trying to will this into existence. I wouldn't be surprised if Owlcat was setting up another crossover with a different game, just like they did with the Arbites with Darktide. It's possible that they could be coordinating with the developers of Mechanicus 2 and maybe trying to plan their release at around the same time as that game. We still don't know when Mechanicus 2 is going to release. And next up, we've received quite a bit of news regarding what's going to be added to Space Marine 2 in September this year, and what's going to be released after that as well. For patch 10.0 releasing in September, we're finally getting some new PvP content in the form of a Chaos versus Chaos PvP mode that's going to feature Hellbrutes and release alongside more Chaos Space Marine customization. I'm happy that the developers are taking PvP a bit more seriously and are growing more ambitious with what they're adding to it. Adding new maps to the game is cool, but it doesn't actually do anything to address the state of PvP in the game right now. The patch will also introduce the Power Axe, which would be Space Marine 2's first new melee weapon since launch. I'm curious how the weapon is going to perform and what niche it's going to fill, because the game already has some slower, heavy-hitting options in the form of the Power Fist and Thunderhammer, while the Chainsword, Knife, and Power Sword all seem to be designed to be quick and agile. Perhaps the power axe will be balanced to fall somewhere in the middle, a weapon that hits pretty hard while not being too slow to wield. I think that would probably be a pretty good place for it. But the most important news revealed for Space Marine 2 is that the developers have officially confirmed that the Tech Marine will be added as a new class in the future. This won't be released with patch 10.0, but I'd imagine that Saber and Focus are very motivated to ship a new class, considering the positive reception that the new Arbites class is getting in Darktide and in Rogue Trader. And if you guys don't already know, it's already been confirmed that Space Marine 2 is going to be receiving support until Space Marine 3 comes out, and that could be years in the making, so the Tech Marine is definitely going to be the first class of many. I could see Focus and Saber adding the Apothecary, Librarian, and maybe even the Chaplain to the game. New classes and new enemy factions introduce so much variety to these kinds of games, and I'm glad that the developers are capitalizing on adding this kind of content. The next thing that needs to happen is Fat Shark needs to add Gene Stealer Cults to Darktide, and Saber needs to add Necrons to Space Marine 2. Then we'd honestly really be cooking. Finally, I wanted to talk about the channel for a bit and let you guys in on my plans moving forward. First of all, we recently passed the 10,000 subscriber milestone, and I just wanted to let you know how grateful I am for your viewership. If you tuned in for 40k gaming news, I don't blame you if you tune out at this point. Just know that your viewership means a lot to me, and again, thank you very much. I'd like to imagine that if you're subscribed to this channel, you love Warhammer or Warhammer 40k as much as I do, or perhaps you're here because I talk about a specific game that you play, but either way, I'm extremely happy and grateful that I'm able to share my love of the hobby with you, and you found it entertaining or engaging enough to stick around. That being said, I'm going to be enabling memberships for the channel. These are completely optional and will include some Blood Raven chapter iconography, such as channel badges and emotes, along with member shoutouts in the credits of future videos. The Blood Ravens are my favorite Space Marine chapter because Dawn of War is how I got into 40k in the first place, so I'm really excited to share these with you guys. If you guys ever want to get a hold of me or just chat, you can do that over on X, where I now have an account. I decided to open up an X account instead of opening up something like a Discord server, because that would probably require way too much time and moderation, which I don't really want to have on my plate right now. I also really want to live stream on YouTube eventually so that I could interact with you guys directly, but my internet really sucks, so I'll let you know if that ever changes so that we could hang out on stream sometime. Again, thank you guys so much for your viewership, and I hope that you enjoyed these discussions about Warhammer as much as I do. Anyways, this has been Jefficus, and I'll see you in game.